All right, Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the whole elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah, the Most High, the Heavenly Father. His Hebrew name is Yahweh, not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah, not Abba, not Yahuwah. It's Yahweh. Not Hashem, not Yahweh, Haveh, Vave. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shah. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua, not Yahusha, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos. It's Yahweh Shah. So got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elder, bishop, and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether accepted or not. In the sense of salutation to all the occupant pushing this truth and believing this truth, or believing this truth and pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, shining like the hopeful elect. Shalom to the wealth who are listening learning, youth who sizzle are listening learning. I'm Isaiah from GMS Atlanta, Camp Prophet of Doom, coming to another lesson, truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another day of edification, Lord, wouldn't be edifying. So title this lesson, the third woe draw of Nigh, as well as the RFID micro C-HIP mandate. Lord, wants to be edifying. So first, this is our copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, new reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So I got a couple of these clips here on the show dealing with the old war general, colonel, whatever he is. I think his name is McGregor. Got these two clips here. Then I got two other clips on the show. Let me pull these up. Bear with me here. Yeah, let's play this one first. Right here. Douglas McGregor. They like one 10 minutes, one like 8 minutes, 9 minutes or something. This is heavy, man. All right. Hold on.
Makes right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. We are joined again by Colonel Douglas McGregor, a decorated combat veteran and former senior advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Defense. So let me ask you something, Doug. You know, the statement, might makes right. We used to mock that and say that it doesn't, the international rules-based order does, or the rule of law. We clearly just shredded that, so we don't even pretend that anymore. But what is the consequence? Or is there a consequence to basically saying, all right, we're not even going to pretend anymore. We're now going to do whatever we want and just pound sand if you don't agree with us. We will do what matters. So this whole greater Israel thing, potentially taking parts of other states in the region by force of arms, slaughtering the Palestinian people, methodically destroying all the stuff, all of this is clearly against us. The UN has again come out this morning and said that Israel now meets the definition of genocide, etc. All these kinds of things are self-evident. But if we continue to support it, blanket like this, and don't even pretend to have the moral right behind anything, what is the consequence, or is there one?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I think there are very serious consequences. But the more moral dimension has not caught up, and it will not catch up until our unavoidable, in the sense that we we find ourselves in conflict with many, many states, far more than simply the small Arab states in the Middle East. We find ourselves in conflict with great powers. Now, one of two things: you may have some recognition, some event, epiphany that persuades people in Washington to stop, or you end up in a larger war that you cannot possibly prevail in, and you lose a great deal. But here's something that Americans need to understand, and this is something the Europeans are beginning to grasp. This war is very different from what we're accustomed to in Europe. You know, in 1720, when the Russians finally defeated the Swedes and the Tsar Peter the Great got control of what we call the Baltic littoral, these states that we refer to today as Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. He got control of those as a result of the treaty with the Swedes. Now, the aristocracy in those states was German. The populations were of mixed nature. But when he came in to meet with the German nobility that ran the entire area, the entire Baltic littoral, the first comment, he was asked, what do you want to change? And his first comment was, I don't want to change a thing. You're very successful. You run this brilliantly. I just want to collect taxes. Now, that's very important because he did not try to Russify the populations. In other words, change the culture, the identity, the language, the composition of the population. And he was not interested in murdering the populations and replacing them with Russians. So these kinds of wars were waged in Europe for centuries. And the people that ruled, the ruling houses, the crowns would change. But the populations remained, and they were treated well, and they were respected. The war that we're watching right now, tragically, has something much, much more in common with the sort of heinous things we saw during the Second World War, where whole populations are being threatened with extinction, with mass deportation, mass expulsion. This was the sort of things that the Communist Party of the Soviet Union engaged in right after the Bolshevik Revolution and killed millions and millions of people. Far more people were killed in the interwar period than were actually killed on the Eastern Front during the Second World War. We don't understand that. This is a kind of war with which we're not terribly familiar. The last time we saw something like this, it was waged in the United States against selected Native American tribes. And it was, and we admit that. And we express regret, but there's nothing we can do about it now, but it did happen. This is this ruthless war of extermination.
Hey, he said he admit that, and there's nothing we can do about it. Hey, my GM told me that a couple years ago. He in the spiritual realm now. He said the exact same thing this guy said. Let me run it back.
Was, and we admit that, and we express regret.
Hold on.
And the people that ruled were very successful. He got control of those as a result of the treaty with the Swedes. Now, the aristocracy in those states was German. The populations were of mixed nature. But when he came in to meet with the German nobility that ran the entire area, the entire Baltic littoral, the first comment, he was asked, what do you want to change? And his first comment was, I don't want to change a thing. You're very successful. You run this brilliantly. I just want to collect taxes. Now, that's very important because he did not try to Russify the populations. In other words, change the culture, the identity, the language, the composition of the population. And he was not interested in murdering the populations and replacing them with Russians. So these kinds of wars were waged in Europe for centuries. And the people that ruled, the ruling houses, the crowns would change. But the populations remained, and they were treated well, and they were respected. The war that we're watching right now, tragically, has something much, much more in common with the sort of heinous things we saw during the Second World War, where whole populations are being threatened with extinction, with mass deportation, mass expulsion. This was the sort of things that the Communist Party of the Soviet Union engaged in right after the Bolshevik Revolution and killed millions and millions of people. Far more people were killed in the interwar period than were actually killed on the Eastern Front during the Second World War. We don't understand that. This is a kind of war with which we're not terribly familiar. The last time we saw something like this, it was waged in the United States against selected Native American tribes. And it was, and we admit that. And we express regret, but there's nothing we can do about it now, but it did happen.
That's the same. Those are the exact words that my GM told me back in 2020. Well, it was 2019. He told me that. He asked me, I went in one day. It was after Thanksgiving. And he said, how was your Thanksgiving? I said, I don't celebrate that. He asked me why. I said, because my lineage goes back to Native American Indians, Seminole Indians. I said, I'm from Mississippi, man. I said, I don't celebrate that. So he was like, you know what? I respect that. We did do. I said, what they did. That's what I told him. I said, what they did to my lineage, I supposed to celebrate that. He said, yeah, you know what? We did do them wrong. He said, we did do that. We did them wrong. And I prayed to Yahweh Shema Shah and put that prayer up on his ass. He in the spiritual realm now. Yeah. 2020 got his ass. Call out Yahweh Shema Shah. 2020 got him. He back in the spiritual realm now.
This is this ruthless war of extermination for which there can be no moral justification in the modern world. There can't be. It doesn't make any difference whether you're a Hindu, a Buddhist, or a Christian, or even a Muslim. It's just not justified. And that's his problem. But to his relief, we are going to support it. And we are supporting it. And I see no evidence that will change in the short run.
Yeah, you say to his relief. And Herson, I think it's ultimately because you kind of implied earlier in this episode here, history has a way of correcting those kinds of things if man doesn't. And that...
See? And now I was listening to this. He said history has a way of correcting itself if man doesn't. Man can't do nothing to what the Lord got going. This is the Lord's movie. He said that, and I thought about Ecclesiastes. Let's read these real quick. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. It reads, the thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It have been already of old time, which was before us. Ecclesiastes 3 and 14. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it, that men should fear before him. And to tell you in Wisdom Solomon 12, that the Lord say, those that know, he make their boldness manifest. And we here to tell you, the prophets here to warn you of things that happen is the Lord. That which have been done is now, and that which is to be have already been, and God required that which is past.
That probably will not play well with us going to the future in ways we won't like, I would imagine.
It's not.
Unfortunately, that's not the only area where we have some challenges here. The other one is back in Europe and in the Russia-Ukraine war and some of the things that have been happening with that. There was a comment earlier today by I think his official title is John Healey, who is the Secretary of State for Defence in Great Britain, announced that the UK is sending more combat power to the east. So he's referring to this allegation that Russia sent 19 drones into Poland several days ago and tested NATO and was very provocative and all this kind of stuff. Most analysts that I've seen, most evidence that I've seen, shows that it was either an error because of electronic warfare that was used by the Ukrainian side to divert these drones where they were supposed to go in Ukraine, and they ended up just falling harmlessly into Poland. Or some have even suggested it might have been a false flag. But in either case, Russia didn't intend to attack anything. I mean, they would be foolish to do that, especially with unarmed drones. But then you see these actions that are taken, this one by Helium. Several others are aggressively suggesting that, wait, we need to go more and more into Ukraine. And now that we're going to have this Eastern Century process, he's talking about the US General Grinkovich, who talked about that a couple of days ago. It has led me to ask this question, Doug. Does the Western Alliance actually want war with Russia?
Here we go.
Well, two things spring to mind. The first is that it's good of him to announce this because the British military power being committed is of such minimal importance and lethality that the Russians might have otherwise not noticed. Secondly, this is another last-ditch attempt by the European powers, particularly the British, I imagine the French and the Germans, the Poles.
See, this is what we be talking about at camp. They never mentioned, you heard what he said? The European powers. You can call them out, who they is. Who are the European powers? Hey, Richard Wolff, Peter Schiff, Gerald Celente, that nigga Jeremy Babe, what's his other guy? Chris Hedges. They were never mentioned. You heard what he just said? Hold on.
Secondly, this is another last-ditch attempt by the European powers, particularly the British, I imagine the French and the Germans.
The British, I imagine. You know who they is. You're a goddamn general. You're a retired colonel, general, whatever he is. See, they would never say the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Oppenheimers, the DuPonts together. They would never say it. They would never say it. Hey, this is why the Lord say, go to the highways and hedges, to the streets and lanes, and bid my people to the marriage, man. Out there is free of charge. Ain't no 501c3. You ain't got no cap on what you can speak. Because Yahweh Bashimawashai say, you got to give them warning of everything. You on the watchtower, you watching, you got a report of everything. It say shake the hands at them that they may go into the gates of the nobles, man.
The Poles, to drag the United States.
Hey, and to make the point, the bald head Edomite, he said, I will imagine if man don't correct it, it correct itself. Hey, they don't know. See, the Lord, Yahweh said, let me read this. They don't know, man. They can tell you what's happening, but they can't tell you why it's happening and who's doing it. This is Matthew. This is why Yahweh said this in Matthew 11:25. At the time, Yahweh answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent and has revealed them unto babes. They don't know. But the scripture said the children of this world is wiser than the children of light. And then the nigga said at the Charlie Brown funeral that they came out the caves, then they the light. There ain't no damn light. You the pale bastard, what you is. They don't know, man. The Lord ain't give it to them.
States into a war that is being lost in Ukraine. If you are a small country with minimal military power, your permanent goal and objective is to drag a larger power into the battle with you.
That's what I wanted. I said, oh man, that's a Jeremiah 49:20. That's a Jeremiah 50 and 45. Israel is drawing out the northern army. Joel 2:20. Let's run it back.
Your permanent goal and objective is to drag a larger power into the battle with you, in the hopes that the larger power will win for you what you cannot win for yourself. And this is not a new development. This has happened before, and this is in many ways how the First World War began, because the Serbs were very, very hopeful and ultimately were given what they wanted. They managed to get the Tsar of Russia to take millions of troops and attack Germany, which of course had nothing to do with what was going on in the Balkans at all. And of course, once that decision was made and the Tsar declared war and mobilized, everyone else fell into line and you got a world war. I don't think that is as likely now as it was in 1914, but the theory is the same. You know, Sikorsky made some ridiculous statements recently about some sort of airspace that would be patrolled by NATO or controlled to create a no-fly zone, these kinds of things. All of this is the same thing. How do we drag the United States and its armed forces into a fight with the Russians so that we can come out of this theoretically in their overwrought imaginations as winners? They're not. Remember, these globalist governments are in trouble. As this British defense minister speaks, there are hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in Great Britain that are adamantly opposed to the government of which he is a part, who are not interested in going to war with Russia or anybody else, who really want to go to war with their own government because they have been invaded and occupied by people they don't want in their country. And their economy is failing badly. The British economy is on a fast track to disaster. So his statements on the one hand are bluff. On the other hand, they're another undisguised attempt to drag us in. I don't think President Trump is interested in being dragged into a war with Russia. So I don't think that's going to happen. But this is what's going to go on. It's going to happen in Kiev. It's going to happen in Warsaw. Everybody is going to jump on the same train and then expect that they'll get into some sort of conflict with the Russians that they can provoke or precipitate, and that we will then come in to rescue them.
And see, this is Jeremiah 49:20, and it reads, "Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Edom, and his proposes that he have proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." Jeremiah 50:45, and it reads, same precept, but in Jeremiah 49, the Lord making sure he's talking to Edom. Jeremiah 50:45, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Babylon, and his proposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans," which is the modern day Chaldeans, is the elites, who he wouldn't mention. He said the British, he said the global, the British, he would expect, he believed. You know who they is. "Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." Hey, beautiful. Let me get this. I got one more here from this guy. Hey, the Lord has joined them devils that, hey, Joel 2:20. "The Lord shall remove, fall from you your northern army, and drive them to a land barren and desolate, which is the landmass of Saudi Arabia and Israel."
Guest for another illuminating conversation. Now, there's certainly a lot of buyer's remorse as far as that goes. I want to take one last look at this concept of continuing to give $1 billion worth of weapons and ammunition per month. Because for many of the things that I've read, if all of the war stopped tomorrow and everything in the Middle East stopped, we're not giving anything to either Israel or to Ukraine. It would take maximizing all of our industrial capacity somewhere between 5 and 7 years to bring back up to the proper level all of our inventories of stockpiles, etc., for ammunition, weapons, all that kind of stuff. But those are not over. In fact, there's apparently a $6 billion arms package. It's getting ready to be put down for Israel on top of all of this. What does the net do to this, to our national security capacity? And are you worried about it?
Somebody who I trust very much, who is inside the Pentagon and is intimately familiar with all of the missile arsenals or missile inventories that you're discussing, and various other kinds of rocket weapons, says 8 to 10 years to recover unless we are very efficient. Of course, That's a huge, statement. If we're very efficient, we can rebound in 5 to 7 years. But he thinks that's unlikely because of all the different defense contractors, the different weapon systems, and Congress's constant meddling in the defense budget to ensure that they and their donors and constituents all get a share of the budget. So I think it's probably closer to 8 to 10 years than 5 to 7. But it may be that Donald Trump is making a mistake of assuming that we are invincible and vulnerable, that no one is really going to challenge us. And I think that's a mistake. If you look at
America is vulnerable. Vulnerable means to be unsafe, unprotected, unshielded, unguarded, open for attack. Go look at the word vulnerable. It's about 20 words in there, man. Because that's what Anthony Fauci said about the Southern and Northern Kingdom. But we got to cover it. Yeah, America is defenseless. So, yeah.
At the recent.
That's kind of one of his common themes.
Well, I want to say shalom to the Akimanah walk tuning in. Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Barakathum. The water for tuning in.
There is that look. Biden just gave all this money, the weapons away, but we're selling it. So we're actually making money. But just before that, we went to that break there. You were saying that the most likely case is not 5 to 7, but maybe 6 to 8 years. And that's once it stops. But it hasn't stopped yet. Now we're still giving it away. So that would seem to indicate that it's only going to continue to erode capabilities, however much longer this goes on. Do you worry about whether we should get sucked into a war?
Well, that was the point I was trying to make, that the world has changed, and the weapon systems that can destroy us are on display in Russia right now, being used against Ukrainians.
Facts.
These weapons are proliferating. In other words, they're finding a home in other countries. And one of those, of course, is China, that has the largest manufacturing base in the world. And certainly the largest manufacturing base in the world devoted to military production. So the point is that he's essentially saying, look, I blackmailed our allies, and now they're paying up. Well, 5% from Bulgaria isn't a lot. 5% from Romania isn't a lot. 5% from Latvia or Finland is not a lot. In other words, we've got to be reasonable. And you're talking about uneven sums of money, uneven investments. There is no unity of effort. There is no unity of command in NATO. Purchases, buys, yes, most of it is going to be American military equipment, which is a great triumph, especially since we've seen a lot of evidence that our equipment doesn't perform very well. But of course, they're probably looking primarily at missiles and radars. Our radars are excellent, and I think most of our missiles are pretty good. But the whole thing is ridiculous. And what I was going to try and say about Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, if you look at this pact that they've got with China, that is pregnant with meaning. All sorts of things are going on with that. But the one thing you've got to keep in mind is that the Chinese will provide state-of-the-art missile technology, radar technology to both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and they will be paid handsomely in gold for it. And they're not the only ones. The Egyptians have conducted combined exercises with the Chinese, as the Iranians have, and the Chinese are providing some of the same technology to the Egyptians. So within the next few months, I suspect that you will see state-of-the-art missile batteries in Egypt that the Israelis can't cope with. And I think you're going to see the same thing happen in Saudi Arabia. I wouldn't be surprised if something similar happened in Turkey. In other words, China is changing balance in the region.
He mentioned Turkey, which is in Ezekiel 38. Prophecy, man. But they don't know what's going on. But we do.
And that change in that balance is something we cannot easily redress because they can outproduce us. And they're not alone. And they've had brilliant testing grounds called Ukraine. So they found out exactly what does and doesn't work. Bottom line is that's...
Hey, as a head brother in the hall, you always say, the best experience you can get to a soldier is war, man. That's what's going on right now in Ukraine with them. Hey, that's experience, man.
That's the tip of the proverbial iceberg. That's also part of a change in the entire global economy, where everybody is running away from the dollar. The dollar is plunging in value. We're debasing the currency. People are offloading it. The Chinese are offloading more treasuries. Everybody is trying to get rid of the dollar, which they see as a menace. They also see it as a weapon that can be used against them. They look at what we did to Russia. Well, we told the Russians, you're not going to have access to anything in the West anymore. We're cutting you out of SWIFT, and we're going to steal $300 billion of your money. So everybody looked at this and said, well, gee, then we need to find an alternative. And guess what? Yeah. They have an alternative, and that alternative is developing rapidly. China is at the heart of this thing. China is going to open gold vaults in Riyadh as well as in Hong Kong. What are these gold vaults for? They're almost warehouses. For instance, if the Chinese buy X amount of oil from the Saudis, for instance, the Saudis will be paid in gold. If the Saudis buy technology from China, the Chinese will be paid in gold. In other words, the yuan, which is their currency, is now gold backed. That's why they have been acquiring and hoarding as much gold as possible. I don't know what we have for gold holdings. I'm suspicious of any claims whatsoever. I hope we have at least half of what we claim. I just don't know. But the point is, this is a world in which right now we can't compete. So the de-dollarization goes hand in hand with the delivery of lethal missile technology to places like Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Egypt, Turkey. And all of these states are aligned against Israel. So this is a big deal. That has to be viewed against the backdrop of what's already happened in Europe. NATO is disintegrating. This is not some strong, cohesive alliance, far from it. And the three principal allies, I call them the three amigos, London, Paris, and Berlin, are in bad shape. Their Lilliputian armies can't fight anybody. They're certainly not up to confront the battle-hardened Russian military establishment that has straightened out whatever was wrong and is now doing better than ever. So he's kind of in a fantasy world. He doesn't I assume he understands, but perhaps he doesn't understand what's happening to us economically, the debasement of our currency, the de-dollarization, and the destination for us is default. The sooner we do it, the better. But I don't think we're going to do it at all. I think we're just going to grind ourselves down to nothing, which I think is probably the preferred outcome for Wall Street. But it's disastrous for us as people.
Hey, he said we're going to grind ourselves down to nothing. Ecclesiastes 12 said the grinding shall cease. This is all prophecy, man. In beautiful times, we are watching their own tongue fall upon themselves, man. And like this video, I was watching this too earlier this week. War is inevitable. We watching this. We watching. Let me read this. First, this is Revelations chapter 9. I don't want to make this too long because I know Eldom knocked this out by probably live right about now. Revelations 9 and 12. One war is past, and behold, there come two woes, one hereafter. Revelations 11:14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. This is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. It reads, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. That's ancient battle. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire from these intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Heartfelt thanks to Colonel Douglas McGregor for shedding light on today's pressing topics with his sharp intellect and unwavering candor.
All right, so I want to show these two clips. Apostle Hall did a lesson, and he was lambacking, or just basically showing the lesson that Elder Gobaya Howard did from Hawaii. Right? Let me pull this up. And I did a lesson on this about a month ago. I say, man, it is beautiful because to prophesy means to say before, right? So let me play this clip real quick. Pastor Elder Yashwam just posted it. This here.
A new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the
Of course, it's going to be free. Revelations 13, right? 16 and 17 calls are all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond to receive a mark. Of course, it's going to be free. Listen.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this parliament. If you do not have digital ID, it's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes, looking upstream to tackle poverty, conflict.
You see this? Now, Pastor Hall was playing this in his video because he did the video on again the elder brother Amwan Gabar, right? That was from Elder Ashram had posted that. So let me show you this. Cause I did a video on this when I first saw the article about a month ago, right? It said UK. Check this out. Hold on, let me go back to the point. Hold on. Let me go back to the point. Bear with me here.
With plans.
Increase those not Yeshaya, not Yehovah. Hold on, let me speed up. I did this video about a month ago. Sincere salutation to all I can believe in this truth and pushing this truth. Throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world shedding light to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akwath who are listening learning. You few sisters who are listening learning. I'm Isaiah from GMS Orlando, Count Prophet of Doom, coming in another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another day of edification.
This is your wake-up call. The British government
check this out.
Is pushing forward with plans for a national digital ID system. They've called it the Brit card. And if that name doesn't send a chill down your spine, you have not been paying attention. I'm Bev Turner, and this is GB News Originals. Don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel, please. Now let's call.
Now this is what Elder Apostle Tahar doing a lesson on the elder brother Gobar Yahweh from Hawaii. This morning I was watching at the plantation. I said, damn, I did a lesson on this about a month ago.
Call it what it really is. The Brit card is not about making your life easier. It's about making you easier to track, control, and punish if you step out of line across whatever line of the day is deemed important. They've wrapped it up in slick PR language about streamlining services and enhancing security and making sure that the Windrush scandal never happens again, because people who are allowed to live here will have the proof that they do so. They're also telling you all through the press that this will stop people coming over here on small boats. That is patently untrue. It isn't just about proving who you are online. That all sounds rather lovely. This is about building a centralized, state-controlled digital identity system that could be used, will be used, to link your finances, your medical history, your travel movements, your social media activity, even your social activity in real life, and more. It's quite frankly a digital dog tag. And once it's clipped around your neck, you will not be able to take it off. So let's start with the basics. What is this Brit card? According to leaked briefings and government statements, and frankly, any of us who've been paying attention knew this was coming, the Brit card is going to act as a unified digital identification that every British citizen can use to access public services, to prove their identity, and eventually, though they won't say this part out loud, link with your banking, your health, and your travel movements. They're calling it optional for now, but we've heard that line before. Remember vaccine passports? Yes, I do. They started as a temporary solution, but within weeks, you couldn't get into a pub or fly abroad without one. Make no mistake, the BRIC card is the foundation of a surveillance state. Once in place, it will become incredibly easy to expand, quietly, incrementally, until it is essential for anything you want to do. You want to apply for a job? BRIC card. Rent a flat? BRIC card. Take a train? You guessed it. BRIC card. And once that is normal, it is no longer this so-called card. It is a digital chain. It is invisible, but it is ironclad. The sales pitch, of course, for this is it's all about security and efficiency. The government's narrative is all very slick, and they will say this is to reduce fraud. They'll tell you it'll make accessing NHS services easier or help you prove who you are when applying for benefits. All of that sounds great until you realise what you're giving up in return. A centralised ID like the BRIC card will track everything you do. So when you check in to the GP surgery, the government will know. When you make a payment, when you log into a website, when you get on a train, imagine a digital record of your daily life monitored by both public and private entities. Your movements, your choices, your health, and critically, your opinions. This is not hypothetical. This technology exists. It will be easy to implement. The motivation to make it happen exists. And the right pretext, I don't know, another pandemic, a financial crisis, a spike in online hate speech.
Or the RKO. See? Edomites. The Lord is making their own tongue fall upon themselves, man.
You will be told this is all for your own good. And if you think this ends with digital ID, I've got a bridge to sell you. The front, as though you're idiots, that a BRIC card will stop people coming over on small boats seeking asylum, refuge, or being an economic migrant, because those people can often escape into the black market economy, working without the state knowing anything about them. Well, the state is already meant to know about them. If they're being given jobs, they should have the papers to secure that job. The BRIC card won't make any difference to that at all. It will not operate as a deterrent to people who want to come across to this wonderful country. So just ignore that when you're being sold that idea. Let's also not forget that we are already seeing the slow creep of programmable money. The Bank of England is working on a digital pound and has been for a few years. And there are active conversations now about linking spending capabilities to your digital identity. That means if your ID is flagged, limited, or suspended, I don't know, because maybe you said some hurty words on social media, that will mean you can't access your own money. Just let that sink in. The government already has a proven track record of making life extremely difficult for people who don't toe their very narrow line. From freezing protesters' bank accounts to threatening censorship online, the precedent is clear. Give power-hungry bureaucrats without sufficient conscience or imagination a system like BRIC card, and you're handing these idiots the keys to your digital life. And just wait until it's tied to your carbon tracking or your health data. You didn't recycle this week? Points will be deducted. Bought too much red meat or petrol? Access denied. Did you say something misleading? Perhaps some misinformation, the kind of stuff that you and I would know to be true on social media? Your account will be flagged. If you think that is far-fetched, then you haven't been reading the same websites as me.
Hey, see, as the scriptures say, hey, Job 15, thy own tongue testify against thee, Thy own tongue condemneth them, man. And look at her, man. She almost red as she almost red or pink as that shirt she got on, man. Hey, this is beautiful. The carbon footprint. This is what it's all about, man.
Just have to go and have a cursory glance to the World Economic Forum website, and it's all there in black and white as an ambition. No vote, no debate, no accountability, no parliamentary scrutiny. This is all happening whilst we are talking about less important things. Now, what makes the BRIC card so dangerous isn't just what it does, it's how it's being rolled out. There's been no referendum, no meaningful public debate, no mainstream media scrutiny worth mentioning. Everybody just treats this as though it's a fait accompli, and they completely lack the vision or the cynicism to work out what's going on. It's being slid in under the radar, piecemeal, behind closed doors, dressed up as tech innovation. It is classic mission creep. And right now we're told the BRIC card will be voluntary. Of course it is. But so was the NHS app. So was that ridiculously expensive 30 billion quid track and trace check-in app. So was digital banking, remember? That would always be optional. Not anymore. Over time, these systems like those evolve from handy options for convenience into non-negotiable requirements. The infrastructure is being built while we're distracted. And once it's in, it's only a matter of flipping a few switches before it becomes mandatory. It isn't mandatory, of course, if you're having to be coerced into using it because you cannot function every day without it. And once we're at that stage, it will be too late to push back. Now, people will say, I hear it a lot, if you have done nothing wrong, Bev, you have nothing to fear. This is the language of tyrants or just deeply naive people who still think the government have their best interests at heart. Your right to privacy is not conditional on your obedience to the government or what society deems the latest omni-trend. You do not have to justify why you want to keep your medical data, your spending habits, or your daily movements about your city or your country or the world, frankly, to yourself. That is called freedom. We are supposed to live in a liberal, Western democracy, not a digital cage in which we can't operate without the permission of bureaucrats at the other end of our telephones. Now, when the state can track you at will, freeze your finances, and control access to services based on your compliance, it doesn't matter how well behaved you are. You've already lost the most basic of liberties, the freedom to live without constantly seeking permission to do normal, everyday things. So what can we do? This is the tricky part, but it is necessary. Try as far as possible not to opt in. And I know that's really difficult because we're not quite there yet, but there will be a pushback like there was with vaccine passports. Try not to let your data be captured willingly. Use cash still whenever possible. It's one of the best ways to fight back. It is private, it is anonymous, and it is the antidote to control-based payment systems.
See, that time is coming. That's gonna run out, man. Esau, through conditioning and gradualism, he's obsoleting everything. You're gonna have no choice but to hold your hand out. And in doing this through conditioning and gradualism, and these devils is crafty, man. They draining the energy out of people to just give up and give in, man. That's what they doing. People who all this TikToking, all these complaints on TikTok, people, hey, and for people to be talking about this, it shows you that these Edomites is losing, man. They losing. They are completely losing, man. Cause they gotta tap in. They gotta check in with Big Brother. Big Brother's watching. They gotta tap in too. And see Esau with his crafty ass. He's targeting everybody. The scriptures say that they are insignificant. They've been listening to the prophets for the longest, man. That's why I tell you in Jeremiah 50 and 43 that the king of Babylon had heard the report of them, right? In Job 15, a dreadful sound is in his ears. They've been listening to the apostles, the elder bishops, elders, and brothers. They've been listening, man, for years. So this devil is targeting everybody because he don't know who Israelite is. He don't know who Jake is. The Lord says he scattered Jeremiah 12 and 9. The Lord's heritage is a speckled bird. So Esau is targeting everybody. Edomites, everybody, man. He's trying to eliminate everybody because he don't know who Israel is. Israel come back looking like all nations. And their goal is to destroy the Israelites. This has been the war since Genesis 3, man. The enmity between the Edomites and the Israelites. So because now Israel gonna come back looking like every nation. So what he's least doing is targeting everybody. Everybody. And the prophets say in Revelations 3 and 10, let's read it. Revelations chapter 3 and 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. See, Esau, hey, he need all hands on deck, man. He don't know who Jake is. These devils ain't the majority. They're the minority. They insignificant, man. The Edomites is losing. This is why the elites, they inbreed, man, and keep that bloodline clean. They don't want no mixtures. Them 60 families. They don't know who Jake is, because Jake is everywhere, man. So they targeting everybody outside of them 60 families, man.
Speak to your MP. Demand transparency. Demand a referendum. Demand a say on this. Send them links. Send them this video.
Man, you can't demand nothing, man. Hey, Job 9:24, the earth was given to the hand of the wicked, man. You see, this is the illusion. This is delusion that she got, man. Let me pull this up. Matter of fact, I'll read it from the phone. Hey, it tell you this image, right? The Lord is despising the so-called white man's image. I'm going to get it in the blue letter. In Psalms 73 and 20 reads, as a dreamer one awaketh, so, O Lord, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image, right? When you go to this word image, H6754, it got the point I want to make. It's a illusion, especially an idol, image, vain show. So she telling you, you got a voice. You don't got no voice. Hey, this is an illusion these people are living in. It's an illusion, man. So anyway, I just want to show these. Lord is edifying. Give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elder bishop, and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether accepted or not, in the sincere salutation to all the Akim, believing this truth and pushing this truth with the four winds of the earth and the entire world, shedding light to the helpful elect. Shalom to the Akwath who are listening learning. If you sis who are listening learning. Eighth wife tuning in. May Yahweh Bashim Yahushua continue to bless you in your houses. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. Till next time I say Shalom. Wa abba. Hey, Shalom to the Akim Wa. Shalom. Yabashim Yahushua Barakatam. Hey, haba thumb to you, Akim Notwaf, man. Haba thumb.